You are listening to your New Puppies podcast, starting you and your dog off on the right paw. Here's your host, Debbie Salento.
Hello and welcome to episode 93 of Your New Puppies podcast. I'm Debbie, and today I have a very special conversation for you. I got the opportunity to talk to Brittni of Potential Unleashed, Idaho, to talk all about dog fitness. So when I say talk all about, I mean she taught me because we talk about exercise, especially mental exercise, physical exercise, always being important for dogs. But Brittni is going to talk to us all about how to do it correctly, properly, and exactly what and how much exercise our puppies need. So we just touched the tip of the iceberg with this. So this is just kind of to get you familiar with what dog fitness is, and if you want to learn more, you're going to get lots of resources from Brittni to do just that. And as a bonus, at the end, she gives us a little bit of advice for our aging dogs as well. So let's jump right on in and hear what she has to say. So welcome, Brittni. I'm so thrilled to have you here.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. So I'm actually really excited for this because I don't know much about dog fitness. And so I'm going to be learning along with my listeners. But before we get to any of that, what I want to know is what's your story? Where did you start? How did you get into dog fitness? Give it to me from the beginning.
Yeah. So I grew up in Idaho. That's where I'm still located with my husband and our 3 dogs. Grew up on a farm. Always had the dogs, always was doing stuff with them. So went and got certified in manners. And as I was there, I was chatting with one of the instructors, and she was like, so we're doing this really cool thing. Her and her dog were. And she's like, I really feel like it would be an interesting thing for you. And I was like, okay, what is it? Right. And she's like, it's fitness. And I was like, no, I'm going into dogs, not fitness. And she's like, no, it's for dogs. It's dog fitness. So I came home, I did my research, and I was like, yes, that is where my passion is at. That's where I want to be educating. I want to be sharing. I want to be doing. So got certified in canine fitness in 2020 and have been learning and growing and sharing the passion ever since.
Awesome. Cool. So what is dog fitness? Give us the lowdown.
Sure. So dog fitness is, how I look at it, is it's strengthening, it's injury prevention, it's body awareness, and it's confidence building, all rolled into one. So you're working the body and the brain.
I love that. Especially the confidence building, because I work with a lot of fear-based behaviors, and what do you do to build your dog's confidence? Like kids, they go into sports, this sounds
absolutely.
that I love that. So it's sort of like exercise, but it sounds like it's a little bit more specialized. I'm sure anybody who doesn't, for me, when I don't know anything, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, so is it physical exercise for dogs? Or it's more, I'm assuming it's a little bit more specialized than that.
So it is a little bit more specialized, and the way I do it is very dog dependent. So how I kind of explain it is it's a detailed workout, right? So you work with a personal trainer at the gym. That's kind of the easiest way to describe how I, as a fitness instructor or fitness trainer for dogs, kind of bridge that gap for people to understand. So depending on the dog, depending on what I'm seeing, depending on what the human wants to do with that dog, the workouts get tailored for that specifically. Now, in general, we're working the full body, right? So core is a big focus. because core protects the spine. And if you have a spinal injury or anything, then you're doing reactive instead of proactive work, which is kind of what the fitness part is it's being proactive. You're preventing the injury. You're building the muscles to support the joints, especially as dogs get older, right? So depending on the breed will depend on when growth plates are closed, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody with a puppy, depending on the breed, should be aware of their growth plates. Okay. And as more information and as more studies are coming out, they're finding that our large, extra large, giant breeds, main or major growth plates don't close until 24 months.
Wow.
That dog is 2 years old before growth plates are completely closed.
Okay.
So repetitive pounding, repetitive motion actually damages the growth plates. And once a growth plate is damaged, just like in us, you can't do anything about it.
Okay, so most people listening have puppies, so we're gonna stay there for a second, if you mind. So, like, when you talk about, I want to get a little bit more specific. I want to talk about like what type of exercise we should do, how much, and like what you mean by like that repetitive. Like I don't want then to be like, oh, I shouldn't be, walking my dog down the street, but like what should we avoid as well? So let's start with like, what type of exercise should these puppies, for a younger puppy, be getting, and what should we watch out for? So it depends. Okay.
Right? It depends on breed, right? Because a Chihuahua is not going to need the same as a Lab, right?
Okay.
So it really depends. However, if we kind of make a blanket statement of, well, I know my dog needs physical activity and I know my dog needs mental activity, and kind of think in that regard, then we look at, okay, what do I enjoy? What does my dog enjoy?
Love it.
Not every dog wants to be draped around on a leash around the neighborhood, right? Culturally, we as humans think that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. But I have found working and doing fitness, the dogs actually enjoy that way more than being, led around. So when you think of repetitive motion or repetitive on the joints, the easiest example is, think of agility, right? So they're jumping over things. That is the repetitive hard pounding.
Okay.
However, if you are walking too much on a hard surface, such as sidewalks, asphalts, you can do the same repetitive damage on long distances. So the rule of thumb, depending on who you ask, is you get to add 5 minutes of physical exercise for every month the dog is alive, right?
Okay.
Again, depending on who you ask, there's variations, there's this and that and the other. So that's the repetitive motion that I kind of have found people understand the easiest is that jumping up and then that hard landing. Mm-hmm. However, you can damage them just by letting them jump up and off of the couch.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. So again, depending on the breed, depending on the age, it's just things that the human needs to be aware of. Obviously, we can't keep and we shouldn't keep our puppies in a bubble. They need to be exploring. They need to be figuring out their body, their mechanics, how to actually, move within the space that they're in. It's just making sure it's not done wrong and over to where it might damage.
Okay. So like, jumping off on and off the couch like once or twice is not going to do anything. It's just if this is like they're an activity they kind of do constantly every day kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, I will put on the caveat of, depending on if they do it wrong, I've had, puppies break forelimbs by jumping down.
And you know what? That's actually interesting. Like, I mean, is there a balance? Because I also want to talk about what we should do, what we can do, to make sure that our puppies are growing up strong. Because isn't there a balance between allowing them to do certain things so they do build up the strong muscles instead of keeping them in that bubble and then, they don't grow right because of that? Like, is there a
Right.
balance to it?
Yes. Just like with everything,
I
right?
was gonna say, just like everything, can't be a clear answer, especially with our dogs, because like you said, like there's Chihuahuas, there's Great Danes, and everything in between. But like so we understand it's a general thing, but
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, again, making sure those needs have been met,
Mhm.
right? So the cool thing with fitness is it works the body and the brain. So if you take, say, let's go a 4-month-old puppy, right? So ideally fully vaccinated. All of those guidelines are they're a little bit more than just sleeping, eating, right? They're getting to that active. Sorry about the squeaking if you can hear that.
Oh, is it a toy? Because I mean,
It is.
I have a dog squeaking a toy in the background. This is where it can happen.
That's awesome. So 4-month-old puppy, they're starting to figure out how to move. What we want to do is encourage the correct movement. We want to encourage them to figure out how their body mechanics, but we also want to help them do it correctly,
Okay.
because it's easier to teach right out of the gate than have to go fix, say, a sloppy sit, right? If we're having them walk, right? Say, just in the backyard, you're walking back and forth. We want to make sure that they're lifting and that they're actually stepping and engaging with each limb instead of, the bunny hops in the back or kind of that floppy, I don't really want to pick my feet up, to when they're toe dragging. So things that you can do to kind of help learn your dog's body mechanics. Because again, every breed is different. So, I mean, we've got that as well, because every breed stands a little bit different. They have a little bit of a different gait. They're used for different jobs. So therefore their, shoulders and elbows can be different. The long back dogs. So if the 4-month-old puppy is out in the backyard and you're really working on, okay, let's work on walking, not running, not being all puppy, you are making sure each limb gets picked up and put down and that their limbs are in line with their body and aren't out, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the easiest way that I help is setting up cavalettis. So cavalettis came from the horse world, and it truly is just a couple poles, right? So you can take broomsticks, mop sticks, PVC pipe. You're literally setting it on the ground and having your dog walk through them.
Oh, okay.
So that helps them pick up their feet and set it down. And then you, the human, can actually tell where their feet are and if they truly are stepping over. And then with that, you can change the distance between the poles, and it actually extends that reach. So we're adjusting and we're making sure that they've got that full range of motion that you were mentioning, right? Because if they're compensating at 4 months, that compensation you're having to undo and fix. So did that answer your question, or did that kind of loop you around and go,
No,
I've got more?
It answered my question. It's just now, like, how do we tell if something is wrong? Like, how do we tell if something is like, and we, to the point that, like, as a puppy owner, I'm watching my puppy and the movement doesn't look right. Like, and like, how do we know, and how do we get help? Like, that's the whole thing, is that, you know.
Well, and that's the challenge, because if you go to your vet and you're like, something's off, they're going to say, more than likely, they're going to say, oh, it's a puppy. They're in a growth spurt or they're in growing pains or whatever. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I always like to tell my people, no matter if you're, an 8-week-old and you just brought that puppy home, or, you're an adolescent 3-year-old, get a baseline. We have these beautiful things in our pockets that take amazing photos and videos. Get a baseline so that you can actually watch and see how your dog grows, because that is going to give you more information down the line if something is truly wrong.
Okay. My listeners know I love writing it down.
Yeah.
Like writing it down, keeping track. Because you're right, because you keep it in your head, it doesn't work.
Exactly. Well, and then you have proof, right? As bad as that sounds, to take to your vet and be like, no, look, this has been going on. This hasn't changed. This isn't just a growing pain. There's something else going on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So other than like the like watching out for what's wrong or anything like that, what are other like what like what you were saying before is that like especially with our puppies, too much physical activity isn't good. Like even if it's done properly, too much isn't good. Right? I know that part. And my listeners, my students, everybody knows how much I talk about the mental exercise. So we know that. What I want from you is like, what are some healthy, just every day, we want to get some physical activities for our puppy? Like, are there certain games or different things that you like to do that are pretty much safe for puppies to do?
So again, depending on the age and the breed, what I like to do is think of like an obstacle course, right? With different surfaces, different textures, different elevations, different stability. And truly just let your puppy go explore and be a puppy. Because then you can actually watch how they move without you really interfering with how their mobility is going. And you're spot on. It's quality over quantity, right? So we want good quality. And as they're learning, as they're more mobile, it's more interesting to watch as they get older, because then they have that muscle memory of, oh, this is how I step over this, or oh, this is how I do this. The really cool thing is my husband's lab, who just turned 2, we've had since 8 weeks. And so he's kind of been my little guinea pig.
Yeah.
With the fitness at a puppy stage, right? So I've got great video of him just going over like couch cushions, right? So we set couch cushions or like pillows on the floor, and we let him just kind of wobble over it. And then a couple weeks went by as he was doing this, and then he was more stable. You could see him actually engage, step correctly so it didn't knock him off. So that is something super simple. The other thing that I love telling people, dog beds. They're unstable surface.
Yeah.
Just let your puppy crawl on that, crawl over it. They're having to engage those muscles. They're having to engage those mechanics. And I'm pretty sure everybody has at least one dog bed in their house.
Just one?
They can, yeah, just one, right?
And I have like 18, but we'll that's for another conversation.
Exactly. But that means that you can do 18 different practices because you've got 18 different surfaces, right? And as we know, the more locations puppies can explore and be exposed to, even if it's in your own house, the better off they are in the long run.
It does. It seems to blend right in with even like the socialization of it. Like part of socialization is getting them used to different surfaces and different things like that. So it's like, 2 birds, 1 stone. I love that. So a couple, we've been talking about like a lot of depends on size, breed, and everything. So is there like any like, differences again, I know even like individual dogs, it can be different. Like how you would treat a small dog, a medium dog versus a large dog. Like what would be the differences that you would see or do or look for or exercises you would do or amount of exercise? All of the above.
All of the above. Well, so we know littles can't eat as much, right?
Mhm.
So as we're using treats or their meals, they're gonna not be able to do as much anyway, right? So, in general, the exercises can be the same across the board. What does change is the height, right? So when we get to actually using equipment, obviously you're not going to put a chihuahua on a step, that it's almost as tall as the dog.
Right.
So just being aware of the equipment, that's probably the biggest thing. And then making sure it is correctly done. Right. And I really emphasize that because I know trainers that do puppy classes, they don't mean harm when they teach a sit, and they don't care if it's floppy or lazy or off to one side. The problem is later down the road, those muscles are formed that way. So then they're weak on that one side. So when you're teaching a sit, ideally it's that nice tight, square sit. So the hips are in, the knees are in, everything is solid and being used muscle wise, because then they've got the support for those joints, the support for the spine already being practiced.
And I'm just thinking, I mean, how many times a day do we make our dog sit? So that
Absolutely.
Okay, so as somebody, as a trainer who is like, yeah, as long as your dog's butt on the floor, I don't care. Give them a treat, like whatever. So,
Yep.
So all right.
I'm guilty. That's how I started. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. All right. So when, brand new puppy or, or dog that, first time learning sit, I probably will let a lot of things go because, when they're learning things, it's like, you treat in little stages. So maybe the first few times they sit, it isn't like perfect and it is a little floppy. And because right there, you're just trying to teach them butt on the floor. And then once they know that, that's when I would go in and be like, all right, let's make sure that we are in the correct, tight position, not like a hip to the side is what I'm imagining, right?
Yep. Yeah, that floppy puppy sit is how I describe it.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yep, that's exactly what I would do.
So then that's when they would get treated, is when they're in like that proper sit. I'm gonna have to go practice that. Because I feel like if if they're like naturally going to be floppy, you would have to do like a little bit of a lure into that tighter sit, and that's when you would reward them so they know, okay, this is how I sit, not that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the other, I'll say, easier way to teach that once they've got butt on ground, right, is a lot of times the expectation is, oh, you just wherever. So if you're working on that nice form, put them on a platform or put them on something that they actually have to stay on.
Okay.
Right. So if they flop, they're going to fall off. So then they kind of immediately are like, oh, nope, I need to suck it in and keep that form there.
Interesting. Okay. I'm just trying to think of like a DIY, like what do I have in my house that could do that? But
it just has to be as wide as the puppy sit, or as wide as they stand. Right. So like a brick, right? Like a landscaping. Again, we don't need anything crazy. We just need it to be a different surface. So when that leg pops, they're like, oh, hold on, that feels weird.
Okay.
So like a brick, depending on like if you have a 2x4, like it doesn't have to be anything. I was just thinking
that like a little plank of wood almost.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. What are some misconceptions or pitfalls about dog fitness? Like that people ask you all the time and you're like, no, nope, that's not what it is. That's not what we do. Just in case,
yeah.
if it's common, somebody's thinking it right now.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I hear all of the time is, oh, my dog doesn't need fitness. He's strong enough. Okay. So your definition of strong and my definition of fitness aren't lining up, right? Because you can have a very strong dog. As a matter of fact, one of my dogs is super strong. She tore her cruciate because she didn't have the support for that knee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like to, again, kind of go back to how I define fitness, right? It's injury prevention, it's strengthening, it's body mechanics, and, supporting body awareness. So especially puppies, they don't know where their body's at.
Not at all.
So giving them a head start or giving dogs that head start, it's not truly about just making them stronger so they're harder to walk on leash. That's not my goal. That's not the goal of fitness. It truly is supporting the dog. So as they age, you're already a step ahead of somebody not doing the fitness, not doing the support, not teaching the correct body mechanics and motion, and then the compensation down the road. So the other thing fitness is not, that I get all of the time, is, well, my dog's not hurt. They don't need rehab or PT. That's not what fitness is. Rehab and PT are after there's an injury, after there's a surgery, that then you're building that back up. Fitness is the prevention.
Got it. What made me just think of it, because you were talking about the tear, which has become so common for larger dogs now. Like I've gone through it. I swear, like at least 20% of my clients, when I was a pet sitter, like at some point I was helping them at post-surgery. What are some things as a puppy owner of, or what is going to be a medium to large breed dog, that this is a high risk for? What are some things that they could maybe do to prevent that?
Oof. Well,
did I just open up a whole program of stuff?
You did, because the way I look at it is, if the muscles and the joints have the support, they're less likely. However, there are breeds that we know right out of the gate that are predisposed to have cruciate issues, to have hip issues, right? So it truly is taking that knowledge and saying, okay, you're a golden retriever. You're known to have knee, hip, elbows. Perfect. Let's strengthen everything around those. So if there's a tear in the future, your recovery is less because you have the support around those joints. So it's not necessarily, again, we got a dog to be a dog, to enjoy life, to experience everything. Continue living, enjoying your dog. Just be aware that the more you are proactive, the less likely something's going to happen. Not to say it's not going to happen, because, one wrong jump, wrong twist, it can blow. Yeah. But that's with us too. That's with humans too. It's not just our puppies.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true, especially as we get older.
Exactly.
Okay, so one more thing I want to ask, because you're going to give us lots of resources, right? Because I feel like this is like the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg that we just got into. So this might be a little self-serving, but I have an older dog. She's 12 now. She's part German, she's a mixed breed, but definitely has some German Shepherd in her. It's weakness in her back legs. I think it's arthritis and a little bit of deterioration of the muscle in the back legs. So instead of going specifically to my dog, just in general, because sometimes you have a puppy and an older dog. So and we start to see them slow down a little bit. What is there anything that you typically recommend to help them, like you were talking about with the pillows with the puppies and putting the sticks out for the puppies? Is there anything for these older dogs that are slowing down, arthritis, stuff like that?
Yeah. So my old guy, who's between 16 and
Oof.
18, lab mix. Fitness has been a game changer. Game changer. His confidence has gone through the roof. His mobility is better. And it truly is the same exercises. It's just
Okay.
simplified.
Okay.
Right? So the reason why you're seeing the back muscles go faster is because dogs carry up to 70% of their body weight on their front.
Okay.
Right? So if you think, okay, 30% of that body weight, and how much, like, because he weighs about 55 pounds.
He's about 60.
Right? So yeah. So I'm no math genius, but 70% of the body weight up on the front, it's no wonder the back end muscles go faster. So something as simple as having your dog put her front feet up on just a step, right? So if you have a step going from the garage to the house, that will probably be about as high as she needs right now. And just have her stand with her front feet up, make sure her back feet are even and the weight is evenly distributed. You're working those back end muscles. You're working her core, you're working her spine, you're working the hips, the inside and the outside, right? So you're giving her more support. Ideally, start with a 5-second hold, right? And work your way up a couple times a day.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah. And again, we're like, it can't be that easy, right? Humans want everything really hard, but it truly can be that easy. And it can be that easy for our puppies too, because then they're having to actually stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
that's what I was thinking. I'm like, she loves her stay. I'm like, she'll do that and she'll stay there for as long as I ask her to. I'm like, but for a puppy who's learning, yeah. Especially build up in time. Yep. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's really cool. All right. So if we need more information, because we all do, where should we go? What resources are out there? You know, specifically your resources. If we want to find you, use you, book you, whatever. What do you have for us?
Absolutely. So I'm on social, Facebook, Instagram at Potential Unleashed Idaho. And then you can find me potentialunleashed.idaho.com. You guys I'm telling you first, you're the first ones to know I actually have a virtual fitness course coming out in May, that I can work with anybody in the world. So I'm super excited because I get to tailor everything to that specific dog, but I don't necessarily need to be in front of that dog to help.
That's great.
Like physically there.
That's great. That's
so
awesome. So what I'm going to link to all of that stuff in the show notes. So, you know, anybody you don't have to write it down. It'll be in the show notes with links plus Brittni's contact information.
And there's also some blogs too on fitness specifically for the puppies and for the older dogs.
And is that on your website, the Potential Unleashed Idaho? Okay.
It is. Idaho.com. Yep.
Yes. And if you're in Idaho, you can go visit you, right?
Exactly. If you're in Idaho, come message me or whatever, and we can do a meetup. We'll have the pool up and going here in a couple months as well.
That's so much fun. That's so much fun.
Yeah, that's a whole other fitness resource.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Just like for us, like it's a good rehabilitation, strengthening okay. We could probably talk about it for hours and I still wouldn't know everything I need to know, but this has been really, really great. Thank you so much. Again, all the resources that Brittni shared with us is going to be in the show notes, and thank you for teaching us.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I look forward to hopefully getting to chat again and maybe dig a little deeper.
That would definitely be awesome. If you have any questions about this episode, send me an email and maybe Brittni and I can set something else up. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Speak to you soon.
Oh, that was so much information in such a little amount of time. She did such a great job of giving us an introduction to
this whole different world of dog fitness that seems to integrate pretty well with raising our dog in general, from building confidence to socialization to that physical fitness. So again, all the resources she mentioned, I'm going to link to them in the show notes if you want to continue to learn more from her, as I will be doing. And that is all I have for you for now. If you are enjoying this podcast, you can rate and review it wherever you listen, and that helps other puppy owners find the podcast. If you would like to continue training with me, you can join my Your Perfect Puppy course, which is a 4-week course that helps you build the foundation to raise your well-mannered, well-behaved, and well-adjusted dog. It also includes a membership in Playtime Paws Academy, which is where you get direct access to me. I am there every single week answering your training questions and supporting you through your training journey. You can find all the information at playtimepaws.com/puppy. I thank you so much for listening. I'll speak with you soon. Bye for now.